Now to the Fox News voter fraud unit and a case that we've been following. Indiana Secretary of State, Republican Charlie White, convicted of voter fraud. The jury in his voter fraud trial delivered that verdict at 2 in the morning yesterday, convicting White on 6 of 7 felony counts for illegally registering to vote at his ex-wife's house. He's denied he broke the law, saying other politicians do the same thing, and his lawyer, Carl Brizzi, will appeal. Republican Governor Mitch Daniels removed White from office yesterday and named a temporary replacement, White's former deputy. But the Democrats are now fighting for that job. They want the Democratic candidate who White defeated in the election to be sworn in as the new Secretary of State. Well, joining us now live from Indianapolis, Charlie White, in a Fox News exclusive. Mr. White, welcome, and thanks so much for joining us this morning on the Fox News channel.
Eric, good morning, and thank you for having me on.
You were the top elections official of Indiana, yet you're convicted now of felony voter fraud. That didn't look good. What's your reaction?
Well, it's, I mean, what can you say? I know there's a lot of Democrats celebrating the streets right now, and I know there's some Republicans that are privately happy about this, but no, it doesn't look good. But unfortunately, I've found out that Indiana is a land of men and not of law after what happened to me and what happened to devastate my family at 2 in the morning on Saturday morning.
You're talking about the jury verdict coming in. Do you think it's fair?
Yes, I do. Absolutely not. And they were not given all the law. And I think what happened yesterday was a total miscarriage of justice, and it's a perversion. The law allows me to do everything I did, and the jury did not get all that law.
You are appealing or plan to appeal this, and let's show you what the Indiana Democratic Party said in response to the verdict when the jury came in. Here's the statement in part. It says, quote, "Charlie committed a crime and will be punished for that crime. It is obvious that Mitch Daniels will try anything to take back this fraudulent election, but there's only one thing that should happen now. Vop Osili should become Secretary of State, and we should put the embarrassment that is Charlie White behind us." Those are pretty tough words. Now there's going to be a huge fight between the Republicans and the Democrats. Do you think that the Democrat who you beat by 20 points should take the job?
Absolutely not, Eric. And I'm going to say I've been pretty quiet about this before. What Vop Osili did was savage to my family. What he did was barbaric. And I've never seen nationally or statewide or locally, 5 weeks before an election, an opponent having absolutely no sense of being a gentleman, trying to file something to destroy someone's family before an election, knowing he was going to lose. The man got beat worse than anyone in modern Indiana Secretary of State history, and the voters knew about this issue. They still voted for me, and this is pretty Bush League. He does not deserve this office, and the Republicans deserve to take this spot because we won it. The voters knew the issues, and for the Democrats to say what they say when Evan Bayh and Susan Bayh, that they live in D.C., he is not a senator anymore. He intends to come back to Indianapolis one day, back to the $58,000 condo he's never lived in, fraudulently claiming that he lives there with his homestead, and to say, they have the audacity to say that Evan and Susan Bayh are okay, and how they voted in May and November of 2011, last year, when he stopped being a senator. And everyone wants to ignore that because, again, in Indiana, we're a state of men and not of law.
Well, Vop Osili isn't here to defend himself at the moment. We have asked for him for an interview in the past. And you talk about the Bayh situation. That maybe apparently has been cleared. But here's the issue. You talk about voting. Mitt Romney registered to vote in the basement of his son's house. Richard Lugar, who's the longtime senator, apparently doesn't even live in the house where he's registered to vote. That's legal. Lugar says attacks on that are unfair. I talked to the homeowner this morning. I mean, how can you be legally not even own the house from which you're registered to vote? And shouldn't there be something done maybe to try to help clean up the election law so we have honesty and integrity and transparency in our elections?
Well, Eric, if you lived here in Indianapolis, you're going to find that the local media, all the local media, if you are rich and famous on either side of the aisle, they're never going to mention anything about this. They will suppress it. And the fact that Governor Daniels, I would take exception to what he said about ethics or integrity about me in the paper on Sunday. Mitch Daniels has voted incorrectly, according to the standards put on by me, the last 10 straight elections under the Constitution of the state of Indiana and under the statute. He shall reside in Marion County. He claims his homestead, a $3.8 million home that he built with his construction documents saying that was owned by Leonard Watson, the designer, and it was not. And then he votes down at the governor's mansion where everyone knows he does not live. The local media will not talk about this because, again, it's inconvenient. We are a state of men and not of law here in Indiana.
It gets pretty detailed, and the legalities are interesting, especially when dealing with election law. But here you stand convicted. Felony counts were placed yesterday by Mitch Daniels temporarily. What do you hope happens next?
We're going to appeal because there are so many fundamental errors that we think occurred. And let me make it clear, Eric, under the law, when people are in transition, and this is what the Recount Commission found, 3-0, bipartisan. Under the code, if you are in transition, your residence for voting can be where your immediate family lives. When I was not married, my immediate family was the son that I shared joint custody with, and I voted and registered where I lived at the time. My immediate family, my son lived there, and the prosecutors fought me on the jury instructions, and that instruction did not get to the jury because they said, quote, he can't prove that boy lives, even though their own witness who tried to testify against me said that he witnessed me picking up my son, named him by name. And so I don't know where my son lives. I guess he lives in a car somewhere.
All right, Charlie White. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I just wanted you, we're running out of time. I wanted you to complete your thought.
Yeah, just to put it like this, at the end of the day, here's what I did. I was in love. I wasn't married yet. All I wanted to do was get my fiance out of her parents' home while I was on the campaign trail. I wanted her to stay with me, keep the relationship together. I bought a place for her and her kids to live in, but we agreed to not live together until we got married because I was a former family law attorney. I know how it can be when you're blending in 3 children through 2 different marriages. And now I suppose the Indiana election law trumps me being able to raise my children and stepchildren the way that we want to. And I think it's a travesty. And you're going to hear a lot more from me about the equal application of law, what that's been applied to me versus those that are rich and famous.
All right, Charlie White, we thank you for joining us today. By the way, I should mention that a judge, a state judge, has ruled that the Democrat, Vop Vasili, should take the Secretary of State's job, but that's been on stay right now.